How Bruce Lee died?
They said it was a couple.
Yeah.
They said he upset it because of his success in the film industry and taking the martial arts around the world, that he upset it, the Triads.
The shocking and untimely death of martial arts legend Bruce Lee at the age of 32 has long been shrouded in mystery. For decades, Chuck Norris, his close friend and fellow martial artist, kept silent about the circumstances surrounding the tragedy. Now, Norris breaks his silence with shocking revelations that challenge everything we thought we knew. Was Lee's passing a tragic accident, or does a darker secret lie hidden? Join us as we delve into Chuck Norris's revelations, uncovering the startling truth behind Bruce Lee's final moments. The unlikely friendship. In the late 1960s, two rising stars in the martial arts world, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, crossed paths at a pivotal moment in their careers. Lee, who had already made a name for himself with his Hong Kong films The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, was eager to expand his horizons. Norris, on the other hand, was a world champion in karate, having won numerous tournaments and titles across the United States and beyond. Their first encounter took place at the All-American Karate Open Championship in 1967, held at the Grand Madison Square Garden in New York City. Norris emerged victorious in the competition, showcasing his exceptional skills and technique. But it was Lee's dazzling martial arts demonstration that caught Norris's eye. Impressed by each other's abilities, the two martial artists met backstage after the event, engaging in a lively discussion about fighting styles and philosophies. As they delved deeper into their conversation, Lee and Norris discovered a shared passion for the art of combat. They recognized in each other a kindred spirit, someone who understood the dedication and discipline required to excel in their chosen field. That's when they made a decision that would change the course of their lives and the martial arts world forever. They would train together in Lee's backyard. Lee, known for his openness to learning from others, saw an opportunity to expand his repertoire. Norris, with his expertise in high kicks, convinced Lee to explore techniques that reached above the waist. Prior to their training sessions, Lee had subscribed to the belief that a martial artist should never kick higher than the waist. However, Norris demonstrated the importance of versatility, showing Lee how an opponent's unguarded head could be a prime target. Recognizing the wisdom in Norris's approach, Lee embraced this new perspective and incorporated it into his own style. As they trained together in Lee's backyard, nestled in the heart of Los Angeles, an incredible transformation took place. Lee, already renowned for his speed and power, began to refine his high kicks under Norris's guidance. Norris, who stood an impressive 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed a solid 160 pounds, marveled at Lee's ability to generate such incredible force from his compact 5 foot 7 inch, 140-pound frame. Within a mere 6 months of training, Lee's high kicks had reached a level of mastery that rivaled Norris's own. But the exchange of knowledge was not one-sided. Norris found himself captivated by Lee's innovative approach to martial arts, particularly his development of Jeet Kune Do. This revolutionary style, which emphasized practicality, fluidity, and personal expression, resonated deeply with Norris. He recognized Lee as a visionary who sought to break free from the constraints of traditional martial arts and forge a new path. Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee's innovative martial art philosophy. In the realm of martial arts, few concepts have captivated the minds of practitioners and enthusiasts alike as much as Jeet Kune Do, the brainchild of the legendary Bruce Lee. More than just a fighting style, Jeet Kune Do represents a philosophical approach to combat and life itself, one that challenges conventional wisdom and seeks to transcend the limitations of traditional martial arts. At its core, Jeet Kune Do is a hybrid martial art that draws from various disciplines, including Wing Chun, boxing, fencing, and even dance. Lee, a man of unassuming physical presence, recognized the need for a flexible and adaptable system that could be tailored to an individual's unique strengths and circumstances. He believed that martial arts should be a means of personal expression rather than a rigid adherence to ancient forms and techniques. Central to the philosophy of Jeet Kune Do are the principles of simplicity, directness, and freedom. Lee sought to strip away the unnecessary flourishes and embellishments that often characterize traditional martial arts, focusing instead on practical, efficient movements that could be applied in real-world situations. He emphasized the importance of economy of motion, using the shortest path to achieve maximum impact. The physical demands of Jeet Kune Do are considerable, requiring a combination of speed, power, and finesse. Lee himself was known for his lightning-fast punches, which were clocked at a staggering 85 miles per hour. To put that into perspective, the average punch in karate is around 25 to 30 miles per hour. Lee's kicks were equally impressive, with some experts estimating that he could generate up to 1,800 pounds of force with a single strike. The Way of the Dragon. Lee and Norris's iconic collaboration. In 1972, the worlds of martial arts and cinema collided in spectacular fashion with the release of Way of the Dragon, a film that would go down in history as one of the greatest collaborations between two legendary figures, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris. The movie, which was written, directed, and starring Lee himself, showcased not only their incredible martial arts skills, but also their deepening friendship and mutual respect. Way of the Dragon, also known as Return of the Dragon in the United States, tells the story of Tang Lung, a young martial artist from Hong Kong who travels to Rome to help his friend Chen Qinghua and her uncle Wang, who were being threatened by a local crime boss seeking to take over their restaurant. Armed with his extraordinary kung fu abilities, Tang Lung takes on the gangsters and explores the city, immersing himself in the ancient culture of Rome. With a budget of just $130,000, a mere fraction of what Hollywood productions typically cost at the time, Lee and his team managed to create a cinematic masterpiece that would go on to gross over $130 million worldwide. It was a staggering achievement, making Way of the Dragon the highest-grossing film in Hong Kong in 1972, and cementing its place as one of the most successful martial arts films of all time. Central to the film's enduring appeal is the iconic fight scene between Lee and Norris, which takes place in the historic Colosseum in Rome. The scene, meticulously choreographed by Lee himself, is a masterclass in martial arts cinema, showcasing the contrasting styles and philosophies of the two fighters. Lee, with his lightning-fast moves and fluid grace, embodies the principles of his Jeet Kune Do, while Norris, with his powerful kicks and unshakable determination, represents the more traditional Tang Soo Do style. The fight, which lasted a full 10 minutes and 14 seconds, reflected the dedication and skill of both men. Lee and Norris, who stood at 5 feet 7 inches and 140 pounds and 5 feet 10 inches and 180 pounds respectively, performed all of their own stunts and fought with a level of intensity and realism that had rarely been seen on screen before. The scene required 3 grueling days to film, with both men sustaining numerous bruises and injuries in the process. For Norris, the film was a turning point in his career, leading to a string of successful action movies in the 1970s and 80s, including Good Guys Wear Black and The Delta Force. But more than that, it cemented his friendship with Lee and his place in martial arts history. Years later, Norris would reflect on the experience of working with Lee, describing him as a phenomenon and a genius who had a profound impact on his life and career. Chuck Norris's shocking theory about Bruce Lee's death. For decades, the untimely and tragic death of martial arts legend Bruce Lee has been shrouded in mystery and speculation. But in recent years, A new theory has emerged, one that comes from a surprising source: Lee's close friend and fellow martial artist, Chuck Norris. In a shocking revelation, Norris has shed light on the circumstances that he believes led to Lee's demise, painting a picture of a man driven to the brink by his own relentless pursuit of perfection. The story begins in 1968, when Lee suffered a devastating injury that would change the course of his life. During a routine training session, Lee attempted a weightlifting exercise known as Good Mornings, which involves bending forward at the hips with a barbell resting on the shoulders. But something went wrong, and Lee felt a sudden, searing pain in his back. He had suffered a severe injury, a slipped disc, that would require extensive treatment and rehabilitation. For Lee, the injury was a crushing blow. He was a man who prided himself on his physical prowess and his ability to push his body to the limits. But now, he found himself in a hospital bed, facing the possibility that he might never walk again. It was a fate that Lee, with his indomitable spirit, refused to accept. Against his doctor's advice, Lee threw himself into his rehabilitation with the same intensity that he brought to his martial arts training. He subjected himself to grueling workouts and painful physical therapy sessions, pushing through the agony in his quest to regain his strength and mobility. And to help manage the pain, he began taking medication, a decision that would have far-reaching consequences. But Lee's recovery was not just a physical battle. It was also a mental and emotional one. For a man who had built his life and career around his body, the injury was a devastating setback. He became irritable and short-tempered, lashing out at those around him as he grappled with his own frustration and despair. And he became increasingly obsessed with his own mortality, pushing himself harder and harder in a desperate attempt to prove that he was still invincible. It was during this time that Norris began to notice changes in his friend's behavior. Lee, who had always been a fan of supplements and wellness practices, had become even more ridden. He was taking handfuls of herbs and vitamins, including ginseng and royal jelly, in an attempt to boost his energy and speed up his recovery. Lee's diet, too, had become extreme. He had always been a fan of protein, believing it was essential for building muscle and strength. But now, he was consuming staggering amounts of it, sometimes eating as much as 10 eggs or 2 pounds of beef in a single meal. At the same time, he was drinking gallons of water a day, convinced that it would help flush toxins from his body. Norris watched all this with growing concern, but Lee was not one to be dissuaded. It all came to a head on July 20th, 1973, when Lee was in Hong Kong working on his latest film, Game of Death. He had been complaining of headaches and dizziness, but he brushed them off as the price of his intense training regimen. But then, while resting in the apartment of his colleague Betty Ting Pei, he suddenly collapsed. He was rushed to the hospital, but it was too late. Bruce Lee, the man who had seemed invincible, was dead at the age of just 32. The official cause of death was listed as cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain that can be caused by a variety of factors. But for Norris, the truth was more complicated than that. He believed that it was the combination of Lee's medications, his excessive supplementation, and his extreme hydration that had ultimately proved fatal. In Norris's view, Lee's body had simply been pushed too far, and the strain had finally caught up with him. It is a theory that has been met with skepticism by some, but for those who knew Lee best, it rings true. They remember him as a man of incredible drive and determination, a man who would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. But they also remember the price that he paid for that determination, the toll that it took on his body and his mind. The heat stroke theory. In the decades since Bruce Lee's untimely death in 1973, fans and experts alike have grappled with the question of what could have caused the sudden and tragic loss of one of the world's most iconic martial artists. The official cause of death, listed as cerebral edema, has long been the subject of speculation and debate. But in recent years, a new theory has emerged, one that offers a compelling alternative explanation for Lee's passing. The theory, put forth by Lee's biographer Matthew Polly in his book Bruce Lee: A Life, suggests that the true cause of Lee's death may have been heat stroke rather than cerebral edema. Drawing on extensive research and interviews with those who knew Lee best, Polly presents a compelling case for this alternative explanation, one that sheds new light on the final days of the martial arts legend. At the heart of Polly's theory is the fact that Lee had undergone a controversial operation just a few years before his death to remove his sweat glands. The procedure, which was done for cosmetic reasons to prevent Lee from sweating on camera, had a profound impact on his body's ability to regulate its own temperature. Without the ability to sweat, Lee was at a much higher risk of overheating, especially in the hot and humid climate of Hong Kong where he was living and working at the time. This risk was compounded by Lee's intense training regimen, which often involved hours of strenuous exercise in the heat. Polly points to an incident that occurred just a few months before Lee's death, in which the martial artist collapsed during a dubbing session for the film Enter the Dragon. At the time, doctors diagnosed Lee with cerebral edema, but Polly suggests it may have actually been an early warning sign of heat stroke. On the day of his death, Lee was in Hong Kong working on his latest film project, Game of Death. The temperature that day was a sweltering 90 degrees Fahrenheit, with humidity levels that made it feel even hotter. Lee had been complaining of headaches and dizziness, but had brushed them off as the price of his intense training regimen. According to Polly's theory, it was the combination of the heat, Lee's lack of sweat glands, and his use of painkillers and tranquilizers that ultimately proved fatal. Lee had taken a pill containing aspirin and meprobamate, a common tranquilizer, before lying down to rest in the apartment of his colleague Betty Ting Pei. But instead of providing relief, the medication may have actually masked the symptoms of heat stroke, making it harder for Lee to recognize the danger he was in. As Lee lay in bed, his body temperature continued to rise, putting increasing strain on his organs and his brain. By the time he was spotted and rushed to hospital, it was too late. Despite doctors' best efforts, Lee slipped into a coma and died shortly thereafter. Polly's theory has been met with both praise and skepticism from experts in the field. Some have hailed it as a groundbreaking new explanation for Lee's death, one that finally provides closure for fans and admirers who have long wondered about the true cause of his passing. Others have criticized it as speculative and lacking hard evidence. The Triads Theory. In the years since Bruce Lee's sudden and tragic death, countless theories have emerged attempting to explain the mysterious circumstances surrounding his untimely demise. While the official cause of death was listed as cerebral edema, many have speculated that there may have been more sinister forces at work, including the possibility that Lee was the victim of foul play at the hands of one of Hong Kong's most notorious criminal organizations, the Triads. The Triads, also known as the Chinese Mafia, have a long and storied history in Hong Kong and throughout Southeast Asia. Known for their involvement in illegal activities such as drug trafficking, prostitution, and gambling, the Triads have also been linked to numerous high-profile murders and assassinations over the years, often targeting those who threaten their power and influence. According to some theories, Bruce Lee may have been one such target. As a rising star in the world of martial arts and entertainment, Lee had become a cultural icon and a symbol of Chinese pride and identity. His films, which often featured themes of rebellion against oppression and corruption, had struck a chord with audiences around the world, and his growing fame and influence had made him a force to be reckoned with in Hong Kong and beyond. But Lee's success had also made him a target for those who saw him as a threat to their own power and control. Some have speculated that the Triads, who had long held sway over the Hong Kong film industry, may have seen Lee as a challenger to their dominance, and may have sought to eliminate him as a way of maintaining their grip on the business. Others have suggested that Lee may have run afoul of the Triads in more personal ways. As a vocal critic of corruption and injustice, Lee had never been one to shy away from speaking his mind, even when it meant making enemies in high places. Some have speculated that he may have offended or angered members of the Triads through his outspoken views or his refusal to bow to their demands. There is also the matter of Lee's alleged refusal to pay protection money to the Triads, a common practice among businesses and individuals in Hong Kong at the time. As a successful actor and producer, Lee would have been a prime target for extortion by the Triads, and his refusal to comply with their demands may have made him a marked man in their eyes. But perhaps the most chilling theory surrounding Lee's death and the Triads involves the use of a mysterious and deadly martial arts technique known as dim mak, or the death touch. According to legend, dim mak is a strike that targets specific pressure points on the body, causing delayed but lethal damage to the internal organs and systems. Some have speculated that the Triads may have employed a master of this technique to strike Lee down, either as a warning to others who might challenge their power or as a way of eliminating a threat to their interests. Despite the many rumors and allegations that have swirled around the case over the years, no one has ever been charged or convicted in connection with Lee's passing, and the true circumstances surrounding his death may never be fully known. The Lee family curse, a haunting legacy of tragedy and superstition. The sudden and tragic deaths of Bruce Lee and his son Brandon, both at the peak of their careers and both under mysterious circumstances, have long been the subject of speculation and rumor among fans and admirers of the iconic martial arts family. But for some, the true explanation for these untimely losses lies not in the realm of the physical, but in the spiritual, in the form of an ancient and powerful curse that is said to have haunted the Lee family for generations. The origins of the Lee family curse are shrouded in mystery and legend, with some tracing its roots back to the Tang dynasty in ancient China, more than 1,000 years ago. According to one version of the story, a powerful warlord named Li Keyong had a falling out with the emperor and was forced to flee for his life, taking his family with him. In his haste to escape, Li is said to have angered a powerful sorcerer, who placed a curse on the family, vowing that no male descendant would ever live past the age of 18. Another version of the legend holds that the curse originated even earlier, during the Song dynasty, when a corrupt magistrate named Li Shimian was executed for his crimes. Before his death, Li is said to have cursed his own family, condemning them to suffer the same fate as he had: to die young and leave no male heirs to carry on the family name. Regardless of its origins, the idea of a family curse has long been a part of Chinese folklore and superstition, particularly among the wealthy and powerful. In a culture where ancestors are revered and family lineage is everything, the idea of a curse that could wipe out an entire bloodline was a terrifying prospect, one that could strike fear into the hearts of even the most powerful clans. For the Lee family, the curse seemed to manifest itself in a string of tragic and untimely deaths that stretched back generations. According to some accounts, Bruce Lee's grandfather and great-grandfather both died young, as did his father, who passed away when Bruce was just a child. Bruce himself was said to have been born in the year of the dragon and the hour of the dragon, a highly auspicious time that was believed to mark him as a powerful and potentially dangerous figure. As Bruce grew older and began to make a name for himself in the world of martial arts and entertainment, rumors of the family curse began to circulate once again. Some whispered that Bruce was tempting fate by pursuing a career in the public eye, and that his success and fame would only serve to anger the spirits that had long haunted his family. When Bruce died, suddenly many saw it as a confirmation of the curse's power. The official cause of death was listed as cerebral edema, but for those who believed in the curse, there was no doubt that Bruce had fallen victim to the same dark forces that had claimed his ancestors. Brandon Lee's tragic death, a second generation struck by misfortune. The legacy of Bruce Lee, the legendary martial artist and cultural icon, seemed destined to continue through his son Brandon, who shared his father's passion for the arts and followed in his footsteps. Brandon grew up in the shadow of his father's fame, but he emerged as a talented actor and martial artist in his own right. Under the guidance of his father's friend and collaborator Chuck Norris, Brandon honed his skills in martial arts and acting. Norris, who had witnessed firsthand the incredible potential of the Lee family, took Brandon under his wing, providing him with the support and mentorship he needed to navigate the challenges of Hollywood. But despite his promising career and the support of his family and friends, Brandon's life was cut tragically short. On March 31, 1993, while filming a scene for the movie The Crow, Brandon was accidentally shot with a prop gun that had been improperly loaded with live ammunition. He was rushed to the hospital, but died shortly thereafter, at the age of just 28. The shock and grief that followed Brandon's death were compounded by the eerie similarities to his father's untimely passing. Like Bruce, Brandon had died young, at the height of his career, and under mysterious circumstances that seemed to defy explanation. For those who believed in the Lee family curse, Brandon's death was a chilling confirmation of the dark forces that had haunted the family for generations. Theories abound as to the true cause of Brandon's death, with some pointing to the curse as the culprit, while others speculated about negligence on the part of the film crew or even foul play. But regardless of the cause, the fact remained that another member of the Lee family had been taken too soon, leaving behind a legacy of unfulfilled potential and a family twice struck by tragedy. Beyond martial arts, Bruce Lee's philosophical and artistic pursuits. While Bruce Lee is best known for his incredible martial arts skills and his groundbreaking work in film, his interests and pursuits extended far beyond the realm of physical combat. Lee was a deeply philosophical thinker who drew inspiration from a wide range of sources, from ancient Eastern wisdom to Western existentialism. Throughout his life, Lee immersed himself in the study of philosophy, psychology, and even drama, seeking to understand the human condition and the nature of reality itself. He was a voracious reader, with an extensive library that included works by thinkers like Alan Watts, Carl Jung, and Friedrich Nietzsche. Lee's martial arts philosophy, which emphasized flexibility, adaptability, and self-expression, was deeply influenced by his broader philosophical outlook. He saw martial arts not just as a means of self-defense, but as a way of life, a path to self-discovery and personal liberation. This philosophy extended beyond the martial arts and into every aspect of Lee's life. He was a firm believer in the power of the individual to shape their own destiny, and he encouraged his students and followers to question authority, challenge convention, and follow their own path in life. But Lee's artistic pursuits were not limited to martial arts and philosophy. He was also a talented poet who used his writing to explore his own emotions and experiences. His poems, which were often deeply personal and introspective, offer a glimpse into the inner world of a man who was constantly seeking to understand himself and his place in the universe. And while the mysteries surrounding his life and death may never be fully solved, one thing is certain: Bruce Lee's legacy as a cultural icon, a philosopher, and an artist will endure for generations to come. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.